It was August 24th, 1991, and the news of independence was greeted with overwhelming joy.
At the New York office of the Ukrainian National Tribune, this was a day that dreams are made of.
The Declaration of Independence is on as of today.
That's what it said. From the moment
effective
of
as of today.
From the moment of proclamation.
From the moment of proclamation.
Good.
An already emotional week ended today as the people of the Ukraine embarked on a new beginning, becoming the fifth republic to break away from the Kremlin.
Living Ukraine is our lives. And this is something that we've been fighting for as long as we've been alive.
Many of New York City's 60,000 Ukrainians live in Manhattan's Lower East Side, where today's news is a source of pride.
I'm very satisfied that we have freedom.
The Ukrainians here in the New York area are hoping that Washington moves quickly to recognize today's Declaration of Independence. And they're also hoping that U.S. aid to their homeland is no longer channeled through the Soviet central government.
It's nonsense, and frankly, it's a moot point right now to send aid to the central government because the central government does not exist.
The Ukrainians admit these are uncertain times, but they're certain the dark days of communism are over. At the newspaper, the editor pointed to his computer to find the right words, sure to grace tomorrow's front page. They mean glory to the Ukraine. Glory to our heroes. In Manhattan, Lisa Castleman, Channel 2 News.
That was reporting from a local New York TV station at the time. Ukraine was no longer a part of the Soviet Union and officially independent, but since then it's faced many challenges. For instance, at the end of 2013, due to Ukraine having a pro-Russian president that was close with Putin, the nation rejected an association with the EU, which is the European Union. They did that in order to become closer to Russia. And by 2014, things started getting violent. Pro-Russian movements led to deaths in Ukraine, and that's when Russia took advantage of that and moved to annex Crimea in 2014. In April, just a month after that invasion, Russian separatists in Ukraine seized two cities, Luhansk and Donetsk, declaring them independent from the nation of Ukraine. And when the Ukrainian military sought to take those two regions rightfully back, they were met with violence supported by the Russian government assisting those separatists. A peace agreement was soon reached, but none of those terms have ever been followed or established. Those separatists in eastern Ukraine are still there today and just called for women and children to immediately evacuate Donbass as well as other parts of Ukraine because supposedly, according to them, Ukraine is about to launch a massive attack. Putin is telling Russians to house residents fleeing Donbass, saying, "We'll provide you with food and shelter," as if this is a humanitarian crisis. That is just 100% false. But it's also part of a larger game that Russia is playing right now, which is disinformation. There's a lot of disinformation on the ground, and the West and US are actively working to counter that by consistently releasing reports exposing Russia's actions and their potential next moves. Experts have said that this unprecedented campaign of revelations by US intelligence is basically throwing Russia off balance in terms of what they may try to do or what they may have planned to do next, because the public already knows about it. And despite that, and potentially making Putin question what his sources are even telling him, former CIA Russia analyst Michael Landingham told Yahoo News, quote, "The distrust of intelligence can cut both ways, particularly when it comes to Russia. It's hard not to believe that there isn't a game within a game within a game within a game," end quote. Another former CIA official said this essentially is a double-edged sword, adding that, quote, "Putin is a KGB guy, so he might be feeding us disinformation," end quote. The KGB, of course, is an influential Russian intelligence agency. Basically, they're CIA, so these are all open possibilities here. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has been very calm about this, publicly about the situation, but that has been met with frustration from foreign counterparts. Officials at the Ukrainian embassy in Washington, D.C. telling him, quote, no, seriously, it's coming," end quote. It was just recently that the U.S. pulled all of its diplomats from the embassy in Kiev, which is the capital of Ukraine. So the urgency and the threat of an invasion looms large. And as I said at the beginning of the show, the world is watching right now, wanting answers on if there will be an invasion of the nation of Ukraine. Earlier this week, in an address before the country on Friday, President Biden spoke about that, and listen to what he said.
Over the last few days, we've seen reports of a major uptick in violations of the ceasefire by Russian-backed fighters attempting to provoke Ukraine and the Donbass. We also continue to see more and more disinformation being pushed out to the Russian public, including Russian-backed separatists, claiming that Ukraine is planning to launch a massive offensive attack in the Donbass. Well, look, there is simply no evidence to these assertions, and it defies basic logic to believe the Ukrainians would choose this moment, with well over 150,000 troops arrayed on its borders, to escalate a year-long conflict. Russia's state media also continues to make phony allegations of a genocide taking place in the Donbass and push fabricated claims warning about Ukraine's attack on Russia without any evidence. That's just what I'm sure Ukraine's thinking of doing, attacking Russia. Throughout these tense moments, the Ukrainian forces have shown great judgment and, I might add, restraint. They refuse to allow the Russians to bait them into war. We have reason to believe the Russian forces are planning to and intend to attack Ukraine in the coming week, in the coming days. Russia can still choose diplomacy. It is not too late to de-escalate and return to the negotiating table. Last night, Russia agreed that Secretary of State Blinken and Foreign Minister Lavrov should meet on February 24th in Europe. But if Russia takes military action before that date, we'll be clear that they have slammed the door shut on diplomacy. They will have chosen war, and they will pay a steep price for doing so.
And do you have any indication about whether President Putin has made a decision on whether to invade? Do you feel confident that he hasn't made that decision already?
As of this moment, I'm convinced he's made the decision. We have reason to believe that.
Mr. President, to be clear, you are convinced that President Putin is going to invade Ukraine. Is that what you just said a few moments ago?
Yes, I did. Yes.
So is diplomacy off the table then?
No. Until he does, diplomacy is always a possibility.
What reason do you have to believe he's considering that option at all?
We have a significant intelligence capability. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Quote, we have reason to believe that Russian forces are planning to attack Ukraine in the coming week. In the coming days, we believe that they will target Ukraine's capital, Kiev, a city of 2.8 million innocent people. If Russia takes military action before that date, we'll be clear that they'll have slammed the door shut on diplomacy. They will have chosen war, and they will pay a steep price for doing so. Then a reporter asked, Mr. President, do you have any indication whether President Putin has made a decision on whether to invade? Do you feel confident that he hasn't made the decision already? President Biden responds, quote, as of this moment, I'm convinced he's made the decision, end quote. After the president says that, there was just this sense of shock in the room because another reporter essentially asked the same question just to clarify that Biden did not mince words there. But no, he repeated his assertion that Putin has made the decision to invade Ukraine. According to recent U.S. intelligence from last week, a Russian invasion of Ukraine could leave up to 50,000 civilians dead, decapitate the government in Kiev within 2 days, and launch a humanitarian crisis with up to 5 million refugees fleeing the resulting chaos. Reuters reports that between 169,000 to 190,000 Russian troops are amassed along the Ukrainian border right now. That accounts for about 40 to 50% of the Russian military. In addition to that, we've learned from the Washington Post that those troops have additional personnel for logistics, air power, and medical support as field hospitals are being set up. The Ukrainians are literally surrounded right now and major problems persist. Russian troops and the Russian separatists, which are already in eastern Ukraine, those separatists keep trying to provoke Ukrainian forces. Literally right after they said that Ukraine was about to attack Donetsk and Luhansk, a car bomb went off in Donetsk. No one was wounded or died, but the cameras captured it, providing the separatists with more supposed evidence and more supposed proof that, hey guys, look, these suspicious Ukrainians are about to do something to us. Again, it's 100% false, but also illogical for Ukraine to do something like that, given that they're literally surrounded by Russian forces. But that hasn't stopped the separatists from backing down with their claims. ABC News reports, quote, Russian-controlled separatists in eastern Ukraine claimed on Sunday Ukrainian forces tried to storm some frontline positions in the separatist-held areas overnight and accused them of killing 2 civilians. Ukraine has denied its forces have launched any attacks, and the unverified claims came as Russia appeared to be intensifying its efforts to build a pretext to launch an invasion of Ukraine by claiming it is coming to the defense of the separatists. Russian and separatist officials and media in the past 4 days have unleashed a barrage of false claims about Ukrainian attacks, including staging a fake bombing of a car in the separatist de facto capital, Donetsk. End quote. So Russian separatists are creating and stoking these false flags about a potential Ukrainian attack, about a supposed imminent Ukrainian attack. So Russia is justified to invade, saying, hey, yeah, we need to invade Ukraine because look what the Ukrainians are doing to our brothers and sisters there. Look what they're doing to our separatists. The Wall Street Journal recently reported that those separatists, those same Russian separatists supported by the Russian government, have just killed 2 Ukrainian soldiers, wanting to provoke them so that Russia can invade to come to the defense of those separatists. President Putin just oversaw nuclear drills, rolling out tanks, warships, and launching missiles yesterday, which was Saturday, testing his equipment and military might, presumably as a show of force. On top of that, this week, there were cyber attacks in Ukraine, hitting the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, and armed forces, resulting in the 2 websites temporarily collapsing. According to Politico, the cyber attack on Tuesday just comes after 70 Ukrainian government websites were defaced and disabled last month, which was blamed on Russia by Ukrainian officials. Russia has launched devastating cyber attacks on the country before. In 2015, hackers took down part of the power grid in Ukraine, leaving millions without power in the winter. In 2017, Russia was responsible for disrupting and disabling systems in Ukraine's government and private sector. So the cyber attack that happened this week very well could have been Russia again. On that front, the United States Department of Homeland Security and FBI have warned that Russia may attack critical cyber infrastructure here in the United States as well as diplomatic efforts continue in a concerted effort to de-escalate tensions. Vice President Kamala Harris warning yesterday in Germany of a far-reaching sanctions against Russia and its allies in the event of an invasion. Ukraine's president has accused the world of appeasing Russia, urging them to take stronger action. He met yesterday with the French president for an urgent conversation. The United States Secretary of State and Russian foreign minister will meet next week if an invasion has not already happened, according to officials. President Biden is set to meet with his National Security Council on this matter ahead of those talks. CBS News national security correspondent David Martin reported on Face the Nation today that the U.S. intelligence, the United States has intelligence that Russian commanders have received orders to proceed with an invasion of Ukraine, with commanders on the ground making specific plans for how they'll maneuver in their sectors of battlefield. And quite frankly here, when you look at the situation, the truth is that many Ukrainians do not want war. Not even many Russians. More than half of Russian citizens said that a global war is one of their biggest fears, according to a recent poll. To ensure Putin knows what's coming if there is an invasion, the West and the United States are promising severe sanctions. Cutting off pipelines, which is huge for Russia's economy. Their economy literally heavily depends on oil and gas. And also just international sanctions, severe backlash on their banks as well as among other potential consequences. We will keep you updated on the story, as you should yourself as well. Please continue to stay updated on this situation. This is a story that has global implications.